Hey everyone, today we are working on Pilates fundamentals. So we're going to be talking about some basic concepts and exercises to get you started and get your body ready for more advanced Pilates work. These exercises are going to be really great for you if you're new to Pilates, and they're going to help get your body in its natural alignment and get it back to a place where you can move nice and easily through your daily life and start to take on bigger adventures and more advanced exercises. So the only thing you'll need is a band of some sort. I have a yoga strap here. It's just going to be used for a stretch that we do later. A yoga strap works, a TheraBand, a dog leash, a belt, tights, leggings, anything around that can just help you reach further is going to be great. So set that aside for now. Have it handy for later. We're going to get started with just talking about what neutral pelvis means, because I'm going to be down on the mat talking about neutral pelvis, and I want you to know what I'm talking about. So when I say neutral pelvis, I mean your two hip bones here and your pubic bone are on the same plane. So we don't want the pelvis tipped like this, and we don't want it tucked under like this. We want the pubic bone and the hip bones to be on the same level, the exact same plane, so that you're nice and neutral. When we have a neutral pelvis, it allows us to keep the natural curves of our spine. We can breathe better, our deep core can work better, and everything can just engage the way it's supposed to, and the muscles aren't overworking in any way to support the body that it's not supposed to be supported. So let's go ahead and sit down on the mat. Start with some breathing work. Breathing is super important for posture and to get everything moving. Your diaphragm, your primary breathing muscle, is actually part of your deep core and helps support you. So we're going to make sure we find that neutral pelvis again. Hip bones, pubic bone on the same plane. Ribs right over the pelvis. The rib cage and the pelvis mirror each other. They should be stacked one on top of the other. Front ribs right over hip bones. And then we're just going to take some big, deep breaths. I want you to take a big inhale. Think about filling up your belly and letting your rib cage expand out to the sides and the back and the front. And then on your exhale, just feel that all relax. So again, we're going to breathe into the belly, into the ribs. See if you can think about filling your pelvis up with your breath. And then exhale down. I don't want you to feel like you're like forcing any muscles to do anything. I just want you to try to expand. So you're going to inhale into the belly, into the ribs. And then on your exhale, just let everything soften. And then one more big breath like that. So inhale, fill up the ribs and the belly. Let the pelvic floor just soften. And then release. Now go ahead and lay on your back. Knees bent, feet flat on the mat. This is our constructive wrist position. So we're going to be slightly active here by keeping our neutral. So your hip bones and pubic bone are on the same plane. You should be able to make a nice flat triangle with your hands when you place the heels of the hands on the hip bones and the fingertips on your pubic bone. Now with that neutral pelvis, you should have a little bit of space between your low back and the mat. A little bit of a curve here. And then you want your ribs to just be soft and heavy. So those back ribs should touch the mat. If you cannot get those lower back ribs onto the mat, you may want to consider putting a little folded up blanket underneath your shoulders and your head so that you can get those ribs all the way down. Our goal here is to have that rib cage neutral and in line with the pelvis, just like we did sitting. So neutral spine, your head is anchored to the mat. You've got a little bit of a space between the neck and the mat, nose pointing straight up to the ceiling, rib cage heavy into the mat. Little bit of space between the lumbar spine, that lower back and the mat, and then your sacrum, the back of your pelvis, is pressing down into the mat, and your pubic bone and your hip bones are on the same level. Now I want you to go ahead and put your fingertips right inside those two hip bones. So right on the fleshy part of your pelvis, in between those two hip bones. We're going to take a big inhale. On your exhale, feel your lower belly draw into the back without moving your pelvis at all. And hopefully you feel a little bit of engagement underneath your fingertips. We're going to take that again. So inhale, you can release the engagement. And then exhale, just feel the flesh of your belly draw down into the back of your pelvis without changing the pelvis at all. So we're not moving out of our neutral. And then inhale again. Same thing, exhale, pulling in. And then if you can think about narrowing those hip bones towards each other as well, you're going to get that deep engagement. Now let's see, you should feel that engagement under your fingertips. Let's see if we can hold that slightly and breathe into the ribs. So breathe laterally, expanding your ribs out to the side. And then exhale and deepen that narrowing of the pelvis, hip bones towards each other, lower belly drawing in. Taking that again, inhale laterally into those ribs, keeping a little bit of engagement in that lower belly. And then exhale and narrow in. One more like that, inhale. And then exhale, narrow more. Belly to spine and spine to belly too, so it's like you're squeezing a sandwich. And then let's release everything. Let's release all of that engagement. Place the hands down by the side. I want you to keep trying to think about what we just found, engaging in this area without moving the pelvis at all, and we'll work on pelvic stability a little bit more. So take an inhale. On your exhale, feel that lower belly draw in without moving the pelvis as you float your right leg up to tabletop position. Knee right over the hip, 90-degree angle at the knee, and then place it back down. Now we'll do the left. So you're drawing that left leg up by drawing the low belly down into the back with your exhale. And right back down. Keep alternating legs here, focusing on moving from here. So you're drawing that energy in from the belly, and that's lifting your leg. Think about having a string attached to your belly button and tied around your thigh, and that drawing in brings the leg up. But we're keeping that pelvis nice and stable. No movement. If we can really get that deep core firing, the deep hip flexors are going to work better, and we can keep some softness in the hip joint and find some really nice efficient movement there. Exhaling to lift. Inhaling to lower. Exhaling to lift. And inhaling to lower. Hands pressed down into the mat. Draw your right leg up to tabletop position. Let's hold it there this time. Keep your pelvis nice and neutral. Use your exhale to bring your left leg up to meet it. From here, next exhale, reach your toes down towards the mat, hinging at the hip and keeping the 90-degree angle at your knee, and then draw it back up. Use the exhale to touch the left toes down, and then draw it back up. Now the right. And bring it right back up, working on stabilizing that neutral spine. So we're not letting our ribs pop up. If you feel like your ribs want to lift up away from the ground, don't go as far with your legs, that's okay. Exhale down, inhale up, feeling that lower belly drop into the back slightly as the leg reaches away from you. One more each way. And then the left, exhaling down. Inhaling up. Now I want you to place your right foot down, keep your left leg up. Make sure you have that nice neutral spine and pelvis. And then we're going to challenge that stability a little bit by drawing circles with the left leg. So if you had a pen on your kneecap, you'd be drawing a circle on the ceiling with that pen. Keeping the pelvis stable, we're just circling around and working on anchoring both sides of the pelvis down into the mat. You can challenge your range of motion and go a little bit bigger if you're feeling really stable. Now reverse the circle and go the other way. You're just challenging that deep core to stabilize the pelvis as the movement of the leg becomes a little bit bigger and a little bit more dynamic. One more. And then place the foot down, bring the other leg up, knee right over the hip, and we're drawing circles. And around. And circle. And around. Working on, especially the opposite hip needs to stay anchored. That's where that deep core needs to fire. The obliques start to turn on a little bit. Reverse your circle, other way. And around. 3 more. And 2. And 1. Now we'll place the foot down. Now we're going to start to add movement to your pelvis and start to loosen up the low back and the muscles of the pelvis. Take your big inhale all the way down into your belly and your pelvis. On your exhale, feel the belly hollow. Draw your pubic bone towards your nose. Flatten that low back into the mat as your pelvis tips towards you. And then inhale to reach it away, going past neutral to drop your pubic bone between your legs and down towards the mat. Exhale, tip pubic bone to belly button. Hollowing out through that belly. And then inhale to reach the other way. 2 more like that. Exhale, tip. And then inhale to reach away. 1 more. Exhale. And inhale to reach away. Now come back to your neutral, find your centered position, and we're going to tip the pelvis side to side here. So I want you to drop your right hip down towards the mat and let your left hip lift up off of the mat. And then come back to center and go the other way. So if you had a marble sitting in the middle of your pelvis between your pubic bone and your belly button, you would now be rolling that marble from hip bone to hip bone, trying to roll the pelvis around the thigh bones and get some movement in there that maybe your body's not used to feeling. We're actually moving the pelvis side to side to mobilize the low back and the pelvis. It's really important to have movement in all parts of your spine and fluidity. So stability is so important, but mobility is important too. You want your spine to be able to move. 1 more each way. Tip. And then tip. Coming back to center, find your neutral again. Send your arms straight down next to your hips. We're going to feel those ribs heavy again. Feel your pubic bone reaching through your legs. Now send your arms straight up to the ceiling. Arms directly over the shoulder joints. Feel your arms plug down into those shoulder joints so you have nice wide open collarbones. Nice and easy, start to send those arms back over your head. But we're only going as far as we can, keeping those lower ribs anchored into the mat. And then bring that right back up, keeping the arms plugged into the shoulder joints. Take that again. All we're doing here is teaching the body that the arms should be able to move in the shoulder joints without taking the rib cage up with it. So we're working on keeping our neutral spine and mobilizing the shoulders and the arms. Depending on the mobility of your shoulders, this might be really easy for you or it might be challenging for you. But make sure you've got that integrity of movement with your ribs staying down and your arms moving freely without taking the ribs. Let's do just 1 more. And then bring the arms back up and then place them behind your head. I want you to clasp your fingertips together and make a little hammock for your head here with your hands. Shoulders down away from the ears, elbows nice and wide. Nod your chin towards your chest and lengthen the back of your neck. Then I want you to start to lift the head and the shoulders up off the mat. We're going nice and slow here. We're curling up so that the chest is lifting forward towards the thighs. I'm imagining there's a little tangerine under my chin. So I'm not totally pressing down, but I've got a little bit of pressure downward to hold that tangerine there. Front ribs are drawing down, and we're actually rounding our spine up and over. And then you'll lower down with control, trying to keep those lower ribs anchored into the mat as you stretch back into your neutral position. Taking that again, chin to chest first. Head stays heavy in those hands, so you've got a little bit of pressure back into those hands with the head as you use your abdominals to lift your chest forward and up. I'm keeping my pelvis nice and neutral here, so I'm just working the upper abdominals to flex me forward as the lower, deeper portion of the abdominals is working to stabilize you in neutral. We'll take just 2 more of those. Chin to chest, back of the head heavy into the hands. Curl the chest forward and up. This is going to be the basis for your 100, for your roll-ups, for your ab series, all of those Pilates exercises. This exercise checking in here is going to make sure you're doing those all properly and getting the best work for your abs. Let's take one more. Head presses into the hands, and then you use your abdominals to lift the head up. And then we release that all the way back down. Let the head rest down, press your hands down into the mat. Actively push your hands down and feel the fronts of the shoulders open. Roll your pubic bone towards your belly button, and then continue to peel the lower back off the mat as you press down into your feet into a bridge position, going just as high as you feel comfortable here. We want to try to find a neutral pelvis here, pubic bone to belly button. Press equally into your big toe and your pinky toe and make sure your knees are tracking forward over the centers of the feet. Take a big inhale, try to fill up your back here. And then exhale and melt down one vertebra at a time, letting your chest and your ribs sink down into the mat as you control that movement all the way down to neutral. We'll take two more. Pubic bone to belly button. Roll up. Press equally into big toe, pinky toe, center of the heel. Press your arms down into the mat. Open your chest. Inhale. Exhale, soften the chest, soften the ribs, hollow your belly, and melt down. All the way. One more time. Pubic bone to belly button, reach. Press big toe and pinky toe down into the mat. Reach your knees forward towards your toes. That's going to turn your hamstrings on even more. And then soften chest, soften ribs, melt down into the mat, and relax. All the way down. From there, I want you to extend your left leg long on the mat and bring the other leg up to tabletop position. We're going to extend those arms straight out to the side. Head is still heavy. Now, twist your hips towards the left, towards your straight leg, as you let that right knee come across the body. We're starting to prepare the spine to a deeper twist here. And then we're going to come all the way back to center. So we'll inhale to twist and exhale to bring it back to center. So inhale, let your right hip lift, but keep your right shoulder anchored so the hips are twisting away from the ribs, and then use your decks to exhale to come back. We'll just take two more like that. Inhale over, just a gentle stretching of those muscles there. And up, and one more. Inhale over, keep the opposite shoulder anchored, and then bring it back. Lower that leg down, we'll switch sides. So bringing the leg up, and we'll twist. Twisting the hips to one side, spiraling at the waist, and then bringing it back. Taking that again, twist and reach. Keep your opposite shoulder nice and anchored. Exhale to bring it back. Two more. Twist. And then exhale back to center. One more. And exhale back to center. Place that foot down. Grab your strap or band or whatever you're using to stretch your hamstrings. And you are going to bring your right foot into the band. Stretch that leg up to the sky. We're going to find a nice neutral pelvis here. So just like you had at the beginning, you want your sacrum into the mat and your low back having a little bit of space between the mat and your back. And then you want a nice long knee on the leg you're stretching. From there, keep the pelvis neutral and the knees straight, and you can start to draw the leg closer to you to increase the stretch. But I want you to only go as far as you can with the knee straight and the pelvis neutral. Those are the two most important things to getting a really successful hamstring stretch. Take one more big deep breath here. And then I want you to carefully open the leg out to the side as your other knee falls open so that you can counteract the weight of your leg and keep your pelvis neutral. And just stretch there. And then you'll bring the leg back through the center, straighten your bottom leg, and take the leg across the body while you keep your hip anchored and get a stretch through the outside of the leg. Take a nice big deep breath there. And then come back to center and we'll switch sides. So left foot goes in the band, right foot down on the mat. Find your neutral pelvis. Find your knee nice and extended. And then we'll open the leg out to the side with the other knee falling open. Take a big deep breath there. Feel your knee nice and long. And then go the other way, extending the bottom leg so that top leg can come across the body. Make sure your hip is down towards the edge of your mat and not hiking up towards your ear, so you're neutral in both forward and back plane and side to side. Come back to center. Release that leg and you can go ahead and take that band and let it go off to the side. Lay on your side here and then use your hands to sit yourself up. Taking a seat with your feet straight out in front of you. Knees bent, feet flat on the mat. Your arms will be straight up in line with your shoulders. Draw your shoulders down a little bit and relax. So I don't want you to squeeze your shoulder blades together or be super tight in your upper back, but I do want you to feel nice and relaxed. You're going to take a nice big inhale. On your exhale, tip your pubic bone towards your belly button, just like you did laying on your back. Think about rolling the pelvis towards you with your arms reaching out, and that's going to take you into this little start of a roll down. Keep your feet pressing into the mat and only go down as far as you can with those feet pressing down. When you feel like you're about to lose control, I want you to pause, hug your abs in deeper, and start to sit up. Lengthen the spine all the way up at the top. And then we'll take it again. Tipping pubic bone to belly button. So it's really important that we start that roll down at the lower part of the spine. Rolling back, thinking about trying to get the back, very top of the pelvis down into the mat. Hold, bring it back up. We'll take 2 more like that. So you're tucking the pelvis. You're feeling the hip bones draw away from the thigh bones and open up through the front of the hip. And then we're curling all the way up to stand or to sit up tall. 1 more. Pubic bone to belly button. Draw that belly in, hollowing through the front, expanding through the back, stretching the spine. And all the way back up. And lengthen. Now go ahead and lay on your back. Hands will be directly under your forehead, so you're just resting easy. Legs are long on the mat, right in line with your sits bones. And your pelvis is pressing down, so we can find our neutral pelvis here and lying on our stomach as well. I want you to try not to squeeze the glutes too much. Think about lifting your lower belly into your back to press your pubic bone down into the mat. From here, the right leg is going to reach out so long that it lifts a few inches off the mat, keeping the hips neutral and the pelvis pressing into the mat. And then just lower that leg down. Now do the other side. Extend the leg out so far that it lifts up, and then lower down. So we're reaching out to go up. Reach to lift and lengthen, and lower, keeping the hips nice and even, really working into the hamstring. And lower, couple more. Reach up, and lower, and then the left, reach up, and lower. You've got 1 more each way, reach up, and lower, and then 1 more, reach up, and lower. Now I want you to place your hands next to your shoulders, elbows on the mat, forehead on the mat. Press your forearms down into the mat as you start to lift your head and your chest forward and up. Draw your shoulders down, press actively into the mat, press your pubic bone into the mat so your lower back stays long, And then release it all the way back down. Same thing again, press hands and arms into the mat as you reach your head forward and up. Opening up through the chest, lengthening. Try to extend your spine out of your hips and your lower back. So you're finding length to lift, reaching out to go up, as though someone's kind of pulling your head away from you and up. And then right back down. Let's try to make it just a touch harder. I want you to lift your head, your chest, and your arms off the mat. It's probably going to be smaller, and that's fine. And then lower back down. Just 2 more like that. Reaching up. And lowering back down. 1 more. Reach up. Lower all the way back down. And then go ahead and rest back into a child's pose. So sit your hips back on your heels and stretch. Take a big deep breath into your back. And let it all melt. And then come to laying on your side for a little bit of hip work. So you can have your head resting all the way down. You could also have a yoga block or a pillow here if that's comfortable for you, or have your hand up on your head here. Hips are stacked one on top of the other. You want one long line from head to tailbone. Be careful that you're not collapsing in here. Be nice and long. Shoulders over hips, hips stacked. Knees are bent but a little bit lower than the hips. And you're going to just spiral that top leg, keeping the heels together, opening the knee up to the ceiling, and then release back down. We're working the deep rotators of your hips here. Keep the pelvis stable as you rotate that leg up. So if there was a wall, you could imagine a wall behind you, so you wouldn't be able to roll the hip back because there's a wall there. Imagine that. Pressing the hip forward as the knee rotates up. I'm just going to do a few more of these. Rotate up. And then release back down. 2 more. Slow is good here. You want to go nice and slow. Almost think about it as a stretch, even though you're doing quite a bit of work. Rotating up. And then releasing down. Now both legs will go long on the mat. Flex the ankles, and I still want you to think one long line from head all the way down to your heel. Use your top hand pressing into the mat to stabilize you. Lengthen your top leg out away from you and lift it just a couple inches above your hip, keeping the knee pointing straight forward and parallel, and then release it back down. So that lengthening out first is going to help you keep your waist long and really get into the lateral hip muscles here instead of using your waist to lift or collapsing. So if you even think about keeping maybe a little bit of space between that lower side of your waist and the mat and not letting go of that, that can help too. Reach out to go up. Finding length in those muscles. Lengthen out to go up. Try to keep your leg right underneath your hip and not forward of you at all. It's a little bit behind you. That's okay. That's just going to help you get into the glute a little bit more. But we want to be careful that we're not letting the hip flexors take over and carry the leg forward. Okay. Let's do 3 more. Reaching out to go up. And down. And 2. And down. 1 more. And down. Nice work. Let's do the other side. So flip on over. We'll have those knees bent for your clamshell position. Make sure you're nice and long through that spine. Hips stacked. Waist long on both sides. Keep the heels together and rotate that top knee up to the ceiling. And then releasing it back down. Again, we're imagining there's a wall right behind the hip so your top hip can't roll back into it. Release back down. A few more like that. Rotating, taking it nice and slow. Opening that leg up as much as you can. Feel that thigh bone just spiral in the hip socket. Just take 3 more. Rotating up. And releasing back down. 2 more. Staying nice and stable in those hips. Last one. And release. Now both legs go long. One long line, woo, from head to heel. Hips are stacked, waist is long on both sides. Think about that top hip pulling away from you and press your bottom hip down into the mat. Now the top leg will lift up just a few inches, but keep this waist long, keep your hip pulling away from you, and then lower back down. Reach the leg out to go up. Find length and space in your body here. That's the beauty of Pilates. We're really just finding more length and space so that you have nice alignment, so that your body feels good, so that you're not tightening or gripping anything. We'll take a few more. Allowing the smaller supporting muscles to do some work here. Reach out to go up and release it back down. 3 more. Reach out to go up and release. 2 and 1. And then release back down. We're heading to hands and knees now. Hands directly underneath the shoulders and knees directly underneath the hips. So you want to have a 90-degree angle at the hips and at the knees. Spread your fingers nice and wide and think about your arm bones spiraling out so the pits of your elbows are starting to reach forward and not in towards each other. So that's going to give us a nice healthy shoulder position there. You want to think about your tailbone reaching backwards behind you and your sternum reaching slightly forward. Always look towards the front of your mat, in front of your fingertips, not down towards your knees. So you always want to have your gaze a little bit forward on your mat. Right away, we're going to tuck our toes under. Take a nice big inhale here. On your exhale, wrap your abdominals, close your front ribs, and think about lifting your belly up into the back so much that it's going to hover your knees an inch off the mat. We're going to hold that for a breath. Breathe into your back. Exhale, wrap your abdominals deeper like a corset squeezing around your waist. And then lower your knees down. Take another inhale just to rest, and then use your exhale again to lift those abdominals up into the back. Lift the knees. Hold. Shoulders draw down. And then we release. Lifting up shouldn't make you collapse in that upper body at all. Stay nice and long and lifted. Let's do just 1 more. Exhaling, lifting the abdominals to hover the knees an inch off the mat, staying nice and low. Breathe into the back. Exhale, deepen your abdominal wrap, and then lower those knees down. Now we're gonna go right into a little baby push-up here. So I do want your hands just slightly in front of the shoulders for this. We're gonna keep an abdominal lift here. Rotating those pits of the elbows forward like we did before. And then I want you to maintain that. Start to bend the elbows with your elbows coming in towards each other. Pits of the elbows staying forward. Chest staying nice and lifted. So we're trying to reach the chest forward and then extend and slightly press back towards the knees just a little. And then we take that again. We're dipping forward, but really keeping the chest lifted. It's so important that we keep that sternum reaching forward when we do our push-ups, to get really healthy work in the shoulders and to make sure we're getting good posture as we're doing work for the arms and not giving into bad habits. Let's do 2 more. Elbows pulling in towards each other. As you bend the elbows, you reach your chest forward. And then we extend. And then we'll take 1 more like that. Keeping the front ribs closing a little bit, abdominals wrapped. Go ahead and sit back onto your heels for a moment. Just stretch your arms out straight out in front of you. Really walk your fingers forward so you're lengthening through the armpits and the shoulders here. Breathe into your back. And exhale and release. And then come up to your hands and knees position again. You want to make sure your hands are directly underneath the shoulders again this time. From here, we're going to slide the left foot back on the mat and start to lift the leg up as you lift the right arm forward and up as well. Staying nice and stable through both hips. You want to stay nice and even here. Extend, really reach energy out the fingers and the toes, stay, and then just lower down and drop back in. We'll switch sides right away. So we're going to slide out to go up, lengthen. Find your length first. You're really reaching out of center. Staying stable from shoulders to hips. And then release it back. I like to imagine there's like a little buddy and it's pressing your hips over a little bit on the side that you're stabilizing on. So you're just got a little helper pushing your hips over, making sure you don't lean off to the side. Keeping your hip directly over the standing knee. And we'll switch. And release it back down. 1 more each way. Lengthen out, lift. Use your hamstring and your glute to lift your leg, not the muscles of your back. And then release it back down and switch. lengthen, reach, lower back down. Come back onto your side now. We're going to stack up on our forearm this time. Palm is flat, elbow is directly underneath the shoulder. I'm stacking my legs here so that my bottom leg is bent and my top leg is straight. You want your knees lined up here. We're going to work into the obliques, the side of the hip and the shoulder and the lats a little bit. So you're going to press down into that forearm, press down into your top foot, and just lift that bottom hip up off the mat, reaching energy through the crown of the head here, keeping your chest nice and lifted. Hold that for a moment, press down into your standing foot, and then lower it back down. We'll just take 2 more like that. So we're just starting to fire up this side line of the body. Press up from the hip, obliques engage, lengthen through the crown of your head, and then lower back down. 1 more, push the ground away from you to lift your body. Hold, 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 release from there. Let's do the other side. So flip those legs around, stacking up so you're one straight line just like we were before. Elbow directly underneath the shoulder, and then we're pressing up, lift, hold, and release it back down. You want to really make sure that shoulder stays down away from the ear. Lift from up here and stay nice and open through the shoulder. Relax it back down. Just 1 more. Press up, hold, 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 and then release back down. And relax. We're going to come to hands and knees 1 more time. Doing a little bit of rotation through the upper body here. I want you to remember that it's totally okay if this movement is small. We're going to bring the left hand to the forehead, so back of the hand to the forehead here. Keeping the spine neutral to start. You're going to press down through your right hand as you open your chest up to the left, and then come back. Take that again, so you press down into the ground as you reach away in your twist, and then bring it back. 2 more. Try to keep your hips stable and don't swing them off to the side as you do it, to the best of your ability. They might move a little, and that's okay. We're going to switch sides. I'm going to turn around so you can see me, but you can stay where you are and just switch hands. Hands to the head. Other arm really presses down as you twist open, and then we bring it back. Taking that again, press down as we twist open, and bring it back. 2 more. Twist, and reach down. 1 more. And release. Both hands on the mat. Go back to a tucked toe position, and then nice and easy, just press your legs up to straighten. Draw your hips up to the sky and stretch. Let your head relax nice and heavy. Walk your hands in towards your feet, letting your head be super heavy here. Start to roll up 1 vertebra at a time, letting your tail drop down towards the ground. Lengthening all the way up to stand. Feel your weight in your heels and the crown of your head just reaching up to the ceiling. So you're anchoring down through the feet but lengthening up like your head's just a helium balloon floating. I want you to take that with you throughout your day. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates Fundamentals.